Should be going live here in a minute.
You gonna do the intro?
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. My name is Andy Roach. I am part of the board of directors for the Nebraska Firearms Owners Association. I want to welcome you to our public town hall. The graphic you're seeing on the screen, we have a little white box. We apologize. That's part of the delay we've had in that we were having a technical difficulty with the camera setup. We're trying something new today. This should go pretty well, and we look forward to a great event. Your board today, or your panel today, will be Rod Moeller and Trish Harold, also on the board of directors. And we expect this to be a pretty lively discussion, especially in light of some of the things that have happened this year, legislatively and just publicly. So without any further ado, I'll turn it over to Trish and Rod. You guys have the floor.
Thank you, Andy.
Good morning, everybody.
So I'm Rod Moeller. This is Trish. And first thing we're going to talk about is what passed this year. Let's talk about what positive results we had. We had 3 bills that did get passed. We were able to successfully get through. One thing I want to remind everyone, if you've been active in following legislation in Nebraska, you're probably already aware of this, but our legislative sessions go on a 2-year cycle, and 2018 was the second year of a 2-year cycle. Any bills that get introduced in the first year, if they don't get passed, they're able to carry over into the following year. And the bills that we did get passed were actually introduced in 2017 and carried over, and then finally were able to get onto the floor for debate, and were able to get passed. The first one, I think, Trish, would you say this is maybe part of the interesting news headline that we had recently?
Oh yeah, the looser gun laws. So loose.
Yeah, there was some media likes to take an opportunity to embellish on a few things.
Yeah, careful word choice.
The looser gun laws had to do with the LB 100, which was introduced by Senator Stenner. It had to do with the mental health board. We've always had the opportunity, if somebody has a mental health prohibition on owning a firearm, they have the ability to appeal that when they feel that it's no longer a valid concern or restriction. And Senator Stenner introduced a bill that wanted to bring some standardization across the state, because you appeal to the county health board. And how many counties do we have in the state of Nebraska?
So many.
And we wanted to bring some standardization, consistency, so that every county health board would be using the same standard. And that standard is what? Clear and convincing evidence?
Pretty much, yeah.
I don't see how that's looser, but we do believe consistency across the state is a good thing.
Definitely, because people move around, and we definitely wanted the same level standards across the state, so that one individual in one county would face the same process and be able to provide the same evidence, whatever county they lived in. So I think it's fair and equitable way to approach a mental health situation, which we all take very seriously. And when people are prohibited and they get healed and they seek help, they should have their rights returned once they're found to be cleared and good to go.
Absolutely. And I don't see how that's looser, because we're not advocating that people with mental health issues own firearms. We're trying to help them, if they no longer have issues,
Exactly.
Be able to get their rights restored. The next bill, and this was a really big one, was a privacy bill. We have certain protections, or have had certain protections in the state of Nebraska, protecting the information regarding concealed handgun permit holders, protecting that information, prohibiting that information from being released to non-governmental entities.
Exactly.
But not all information related to firearms ownership, say purchase certificates
Certainly.
issued by the county sheriff's office, there was no legal protections to protect that information.
And that was a big concern. When we testified in the legislature, we discussed the fact that some of the women that we work with who have sought out training, have yet to get their concealed carry permit, but are on their way to do so. and are seeking training because they're facing a domestic violence situation, they're under threat. When they got their permit to purchase, they had no idea that that information could have been included in a FOIA request, even though we have current laws that protect them for being domestic violence victims. And so that was indeed a great concern for us, and we're very glad that that passed.
Definitely. And this has been coming a long time. I mean, Senator McCoy introduced a bill, 5-6 years ago. And so we've been pushing this for a while, and very thankful to Senator Bosselman for
Definitely.
pushing this through. In fact, it was interesting because he introduced a bill in 2017, and it never got out of committee. And so he reintroduced basically the same language in 2018 and was able to get it out of committee. And, you know, interestingly, this bill passed on final reading 47-0. There was, 2 senators that were excused and didn't vote. But we were able to get pretty much everybody that was present
Definitely.
to vote in favor of this. So it's good to see that the senators, if they don't think it's too controversial, actually do protect and view the importance of protecting privacy.
Certainly, and it definitely was an extended education campaign. There was a lot of misinformation presented by those who were against this piece of legislation. A lot of it was hyperbole and sort of a vitriolic attack. Found it very interesting just how many false bits of information were shared in an attempt to sway senators from being in support of this. But in the end, it's really about your private information, and there's no public use of your address, your phone number, your name, your number, simply because you're a gun owner. We appreciate how our government would use that information to provide statistical analysis, and that clean data is still available for research and for government work. But there's no need for anyone to know who has a firearm and who does not have a firearm, and so we were very proud about that.
And it's interesting to note that, I mean, we do still have statistical data can be released.
Exactly.
So when the news media decides they want to go talk to the sheriff and find out how many gun permits were issued, they can still get those numbers as to how many permits were issued. So statistical information is still available. And the information can still be shared between law enforcement agencies.
Exactly.
So if there's an ongoing investigation, they would be able to request information about a specific individual. But fortunately, I think this would not allow a fishing expedition. Say a particular city wanted to have a registration of all handgun ownership. They couldn't just go ask the sheriff's department, hey, give me a dump of all the data and give me names and addresses of those people. So
Exactly.
I think there's still some protections in there of that, even where it is allowed to be shared
Definitely.
with law enforcement agencies. And finally, the third bill that we were able to get passed, and again, this took several years to get passed through, was the collegiate shooting teams bill. It seems kind of small. I mean, this is not a major bill, but we were able to get 46-0 was the final vote on that. A number of years ago, if you hadn't been following this bill, a number of years ago, the University of Nebraska-Lincoln wanted to have a rifle team established. And because we have this great prohibition on firearms on campuses, all schools, whether it be secondary, K through 12, post-secondary, whatever, they had to pass a bill specifically to allow rifle teams. But they worded it rifle teams. And since that time, shotgun sports have been really popular.
Yeah.
They've been popular at high school level forever, but they've really started to become popular at collegiate level.
Definitely.
So we needed the ability for an exception to be all shooting teams, so that those that have shooting teams would have the ability to secure the firearms in a secure facility on campus.
It just made sense. I mean, everyone wants to have secure and safe firearm storage. These students who were participating in non-rifle competitive sports did not have the same advantage of being able to properly and securely store their tools and equipment on campus. And in many ways, I thought it created more of an issue not having this law, given the fact that so many different college teams are from pistol to shotgun, exist, and they didn't have a way to properly store their firearms. So this was just a great common sense piece of legislation, and we're really glad it passed.
Well, if you think about it, I think they're going to be more secure by having the university establish a process and a facility and all of that versus, being forced to find some place to leave your firearm. If you live on campus, that became a real challenge.
It is.
If you lived off campus, who knows how secure as a college student you might be able to afford a good safe to be able to secure your stuff from roommates or people your roommates may invite over or whatever. So, I mean, this is good for everybody, no matter which side of firearms ownership you're on. It's more secure, but it certainly is beneficial to the firearms owners as well. So, okay, well, let's talk about what we killed this year. We had some bad bills that were introduced, and we fought aggressively against those to ensure that they would not pass. The first one was an increase of the fees charged for a Nebraska firearm purchase certificate. That's the certificate you have to acquire in order to legally purchase or receive transfer of a handgun in the state of Nebraska. The current fee for that is $5. It's good for 3 years, and Senator Blood introduced a bill to increase that fee to $25, which is actually far more than what the Sheriff's Association 2 years ago had testified costs on average. Kind of have an issue with charging more than what the actual cost is. We also would have been in favor of extending the period in which that permit was valid from 3 years to 5 years. But Senator Blood was not interested in making any of those changes. We did talk to her about maybe changing it to $10 and extending to 5 years, but she wanted no part of that.
Sure.
So we killed that, luckily. I think it was Senator Larson introduced the floor amendment to indefinitely postpone, and that passed with great support. So we're very happy to see that our senators recognize that increasing those fees was not good for Nebraska citizens.
Definitely.
We also had, and this is probably the most biggest assault on our rights that we saw in the legislature this year, and that was Senator Pansing Brooks decided that for whatever reason, it would be a good idea to ban the use of suppressors and bump stocks, even though we have no instances in the state of Nebraska of a bump stock ever being used in an illegal manner.
Absolutely. No record of any crime committed or misuse of a bump stock or suppressor.
Suppressors obviously are becoming a lot more popular over the past decade for hearing protection. They become a lot more popular for hunting. They're used for a lot of different valid purposes.
Absolutely.
And I can't think of any instance that's ever happened in Nebraska where that's been used. And even nationally, I mean, it's exceptionally rare. Which is interesting because they wanted to use the Las Vegas tragedy as an excuse for banning a bump stock. What I find interesting is they keep saying when we're trying to advance gun rights in Nebraska, they want to say, well, show us a need in Nebraska. Well, if they want us to show a need in Nebraska, then on the flip side, shouldn't we also show a risk or a problem that exists in Nebraska for
You would think so. You would think so, but...
And oddly enough, I mean, we took a look at the language, and it was kind of weird how it was worded, and didn't seem to come across. What we found out was it was somebody from the East Coast who was high up in the Democratic Party who actually worded that language and gave it to the senator to introduce. So this wasn't even introduced or written, drafted, crafted in Nebraska. This is East Coast anti-gun.
Definitely, yeah.
Luckily, it never even came up for debate within the Judiciary Committee, so it never got out of committee. It never even came up for a vote.
No.
So we're very happy to see that we had that protection. Unfortunately, the Lincoln City Council decided, well, that's fine, we're going to go ahead and ban it. And they used the same language, pretty much, to ban bump stocks in the city of Lincoln, and that passed.
Have you noticed a significant reduction in crime in Lincoln as a result?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we had people dying every weekend, and there hasn't been a single shooting or violent crime at all in the city of Lincoln since that passed. So
Very powerful.
Yeah. We're not going to see anything as a result of that. All right. Well, so the big push for us, and this has been a priority of the NFOA for the past 4 or 5 years, is state preemption. And unfortunately, that died. It didn't go anywhere, even though we had a good start in 2017.
We did.
It carried over after it passed first round debate, but it never came up for the debate on the floor this year.
Yeah, unfortunately, there was just so many other priority bills put out by all the individual senators, and then, of course, our speaker, who could have made it a priority bill, he didn't. But it's not dead. It's coming back.
So one of the things that we learned, and Senator Hilgers said that he learned through this process, we appreciate Senator Hilgers championing this among many co-introducers.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that he learned is that even though we have a 2-year session and we can carry a bill over, priority bills really need to be pushed through in that first year. It's really difficult, even with a priority designation, to get something back on the floor for debate on the second year. The other thing that I want to share with you, and I've mentioned this in one of the newsletters, and I think some of you are probably aware of this, but we had certain enemies of this legislation. And it's very important that we have some standardization and some protections across the state of Nebraska. I mean, the state was formed, if we look at basic governmental history and design, I mean, the whole purpose of the state of Nebraska is to protect the rights of its citizens. And for whatever reason, in the late 19th century, so quite a while ago, the state of Nebraska decided that they would pass legislation that delegated the authority to regulate firearms possession and ownership to the cities. And we have issues in Omaha and Lincoln, and a couple of other issues around the state, but Lincoln and Omaha are the biggest. So that's why we need these protections, so that wherever you go in the state of Nebraska, the laws on ownership are identical. And we had faced opposition from the Omaha Police Officers Association. Now, I've never met an Omaha officer who was opposed to state preemption. This is the union. Even the police chief doesn't have a problem with repealing some of the stupid things they have in Omaha.
True.
He recognizes that registration is wasteful and of no benefit. But the Police Officers Association, they fought very aggressively against this. And as a result, in 2017, we had a Senator, McDonnell, who basically brought in a couple of organizations, not us, not the senator that introduced the bill, and none of the primary co-introducers, but negotiated an amendment that the OPOA said that they would drop their opposition if this amendment passed. And we weren't real crazy about it, but we were willing to accept getting 90% of what we wanted in exchange for getting this bill passed. Making 9 steps forward instead of 10, it was a huge advancement if we could have gotten that passed. Even registration. They didn't want to give up registration. And they thought that they would be able to get the registration records, and not so much registration, but they wanted to use it as such, the purchase certificate information from the Douglas County Sheriff's Office. And they said, well, fine, we'll just build registration that way.
Exactly, right.
And between sessions, they found out, oh crap, we can't do that.
I know.
So all of a sudden, they decided, well, we're going to renege on our agreement. Shows what character they have, that they're not willing to live up to an agreement. They reneged on it.
I know, they were sneaky. They were sneaky.
It's frustrating to see that. But the other opposition, of course, was some of the Lincoln senators. They had a lot of misinformation that they used to drum up opposition. And Senator Moorfeld led the charge in rounding up all of the senators in Lincoln to oppose that. Interesting is Senator Moorfeld, when the bill was originally introduced, supported it. He understood the importance of this legislation but suddenly changed his tune, said that he didn't read the bill very well, which I don't believe. I don't buy it. I think that's
Cop out.
yeah, and basically, flipped 180 degrees. And I think that he was, well, don't you think he has some aggressive political aspirations?
Oh, he certainly does. He has a future goal in mind, I think.
And do you think somebody in Lincoln who has some political influence may have
Certainly.
kind of told him, I will support your future endeavors if you kill this for me?
I think so.
Do you think that person might be an anti-gun leader in the city of Lincoln?
It's probably highly likely.
He wouldn't be a mayor, would he?
I don't know. That mayor and roundabouts and firearms and taxes and, well, there's a whole bunch of other issues in Lincoln we won't address today.
So anyway, Moorfeld, Pansing Brooks, Hanson were certainly the most anti-gun, notoriously the most anti-gun senators we have in the legislature currently, and they were able to get all of the other Democrats in Lincoln to greatly oppose those.
Yeah.
And of course, they use misinformation. But the nice thing is, we know all of their arguments now. So when it gets reintroduced, we're able to start educating the senators on how those false claims are, in fact, not valid.
Right.
So we're not giving up. This is a priority. It continues to be a priority. But we're also going to pursue additional things, and we're not going to make it a single focus like we did this past session, because I think that's kind of set us back as well.
It definitely does, but at the same time, we've come so far, and we're able to leverage all the education, all the information we've shared. Over 20,000 members on our Facebook page have demonstrated support for state preemption, and all the other firearms communities that we're associated with. They see the logic, they see the valid points that our state constitution currently is being infringed. All the ordinances, when you read them, you obviously have to compare that to Article 1, Section 1 of our Constitution and see that they are completely unconstitutional.
Yeah.
And again, we get told, well, then do a lawsuit. Well, no, we have a government process by which we can lobby our elected officials and not have to put someone at risk with a lawsuit and spend the government and our money in order to get an unconstitutional ordinance removed.
Yeah, we could go on and on. But our rights are definitely under attack here in Nebraska, and we're going to get to that in just a moment. Andy, do we have any questions that members have been posing?
As our assistant steps out on the screen because she don't want to be on camera. Sure. One of the questions, we had one that you addressed right away, which was about the preemption. We did get that, but there was a good question about red flag bills, meaning the ability of law enforcement to step in without due process and remove your firearms from the premises, and you can't do anything about it. Are we looking at doing any bills on this or approaching that in going forward?
That's a very important protection that we need here in the state of Nebraska. I can't say that we have a specific bill drafted that we're looking to introduce, but we have had conversations with some people around the Capitol on that topic, and we have probably through the end of the year to really finalize any language. That is a great suggestion. I appreciate you bringing that up, and yes, we will keep that topic in mind as we talk to the friendly senators and start to prioritize what we're going to do this next year.
Okay. Okay, great. That's actually, I do want to make a quick note. I'm not on screen, but I am giving you voice. We have had a problem with the stream quality, and we just want to let you all know we are working on that. We're connected wirelessly, and that may be giving us a little bit of a problem. This is our second time. We're getting better every time. Also, switch to me. So my mic is live. There's also a quick question. Any comments on the World Herald article about stolen guns often end up in the wrong hands? Here's how to prevent firearm thefts. I guess it was a World Herald article.
Well,
I was out of town, so.
Yeah, and we frequently have, and this is a big frustration for me in a couple of ways. This is used actively and aggressively by the city of Lincoln. Anytime a firearm is stolen out of a vehicle, the city of Lincoln leadership says, "Oh my God, you concealed carry holders are so irresponsible. You are the reason that why we have crime, because you just leave your guns laying around and people steal them." And I'm sorry, but if you leave your car unlocked and you leave something valuable in there, you are a dumbass. Don't leave firearms unsecured to be stolen. There is no excuse for that behavior.
So how do you really feel about this?
I'm trying not to share that. I'm
Right.
trying to keep that under.
Sure. No.
But it's foolish if you take a look at the language that they use in the news media. It falls in the wrong hands. Really? Somebody stole something out of your car. That is the wrong hands. So, yeah, of course. Please be responsible. I believe that most of our members are very responsible and they secure their firearms, and this is not something that is done by our active members. But one of the things that we need to do is responsible firearms owners is help educate other people that we know that are firearms owners to make sure that they understand the importance of securing things.
Absolutely. It's definitely part of our mission. Educating responsible firearm ownership includes safety, includes marksmanship, and includes safe storage, whether it's from your car or in your home, keeping it from prohibited persons, keeping it away from children, unless you're actively training the next generation. It's just a matter of thinking that the world is not exactly an open door where you can have your doors open in your house anymore. You can't leave your cars unlocked. Whether it's your phone or your firearm, you need to secure your valuables and be responsible for them. And at the same time, we shouldn't necessarily forget a crime has been committed by a criminal, someone
Absolutely.
who's chosen to break the law. And whether it's breaking into a car to steal whatever valuables that may be in there or otherwise, responsible people should not necessarily be absolutely responsible for the actions of criminals.
Right. And I shouldn't be held accountable for somebody else's poor decisions.
Absolutely. For instance, it's in the same way. If somebody stole my car and used it to commit a crime or hurt someone, am I just as ethically or criminally responsible for that action? I am not. Right? So.
And this leads into the...
We have one more question.
Okay.
Any chance of getting a stand your ground law and/or extending castle doctrine to cover firearms and vehicles? So we'll take that as our last one for this segment.
Oh, wow. Well, stand your ground. I don't see us being able to really get stand your ground in the next couple of years. Once Ernie Chambers is out, we might be able to pursue that again. Something that's, I don't know, we don't have a political climate that I think that that's something that we're going to be able to get out of committee. I mean, the biggest problem we have is the committee makeup.
Right.
And we have three of the worst gun-hating individuals in the legislature on the Judiciary Committee, and that's Pansing, Brooks, Hansen, and Moorfeld. We'll see what happens after this election, but all three of them are running for re-election this fall. None of them are facing any opposition. Nobody bothered to stand up and run against them.
And I think that's the greatest disappointment in Nebraska. We have amazing, talented, educated, and passionate people, and yet at the same time, we don't have a lot of choice when it comes to electing our representatives to represent us in the unicameral. And if you want change, you have to be the change. You have to be engaged, and you maybe even have to step up. And there are people who are willing to support you and help you and hopefully get you elected. But we need those folks to take the risk and stand up and put your name forth and maybe be elected on the ballot. And then until we change that dynamic, we're going to be facing this hardship in the unicameral.
I apologize, folks. The camera just decided to turn off. We'll have it back on here in a second, hopefully.
Were we still live with audio?
Yes, we should have because the snowball was going.
Okay.
Yay, snowball.
And then that was kind of a two-part. There was a second legal about firearms and vehicles. What was that again?
It was the castle doctrine with.
Oh, extending it to your vehicle.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I'm trying to do.
So probably the duty.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So no
Right,
duty
right.
to retreat in your home. Can that be extended to your vehicle?
I would love to see that, and that might be something we could pursue. I think that's something that is a little more reachable
Right.
than castle doctrine itself, but trying to make the vehicle an extension of your home, which many states have that.
Definitely.
So yeah, we'll add that to the list of things that we're talking to senators about. No guarantees it'll be introduced this next session, but that one certainly is a lot more likely to have some traction. You know, our rights in Nebraska are under attack greatly, and you know, we just mentioned about the articles that we keep seeing in about vehicles broken into and firearms stolen there. There are organizations here in the state of Nebraska that are aggressively attacking our rights, violently attacking our rights. And I don't mean that in a, I'm literal with that. We have a couple of organizations who believe that violence is the way to advance their agenda. The NAGs, Nebraskans Against Guns, I think that's how we pronounce it, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Okay. And then Betsy Riot. I don't know if you heard of Betsy Riot, but these are some women who believe that it's perfectly acceptable to vandalize government property. They're happy to vandalize private property. They have thrown blood on senators' offices. These are violent individuals, and many of which are actually part of you and I pay their salary, right?
Oh yeah, you all do.
These are English professors at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Isn't that awesome? That you get to fund their salary and when they're not on government time. Well, maybe when they're on government time. In some
It's
cases.
possible.
I mean, because it's during the day. I don't know that they're
Just
actually
leave them
taking
at home.
vacation when they come and
And
testify.
are they
against-
salary?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is my studio.
So, yeah, but anyway,
If I
I mean,
hit
they
that,
love
it
to
won't appear.
incite violence. These are the ones that will wear a black veil all dressed up in black and
It's quite scary.
disrupt town halls and
Yell and scream.
speeches.
Right.
Yeah, they're very mature and have great ethics. But I mean, this is real. I mean, you may think that if you're not aware of them, you may think that the great opposition to gun ownership is, you know, in California or the East Coast or other parts of the country. But they're here in Nebraska. They are active in Nebraska, and they are constantly inciting hate and spewing misinformation. I constantly see certain comments on Facebook from certain individuals. They like to use this great claim. Anytime something bad happens, say somebody got shot in the hood, they're like, "Oh, there's another responsible gun owner." Yeah,
No.
So be aware that we do have some opposition here in Nebraska, and they are serious. Do we have any more questions?
There was, how about I come on camera?
Make it easier to see and hear me. There was a question about, are we going to do anything to allow the ability to carry in a glove box without a CCW? For instance, Texas does allow a loaded vehicle in or loaded gun in a vehicle. Got it right that time. Concealed without a concealed carry as part of castle doctrine.
I would like to see that. Yeah, we will pursue that. It's been on our list. I don't know that it's been on the top of our list, but certainly it's been on our list of things to change. We have had a number of situations relayed to us by members and non-members, I mean, people from in-state and out-of-state, who have been pulled over, and there's certain communities where this is more prominent or more prevalent, where somebody has open carrying in their vehicle, and they get stopped by the local police, and a police officer says, "What's that in your center console?" You know, the open cubby in the dash, not the covered console. And it's like, "Well, that's a handgun." "Well, do you have a concealed carry permit?" "No." Well, they ended up having their firearm confiscated and charged for carrying without a concealed permit, but it wasn't concealed. how could it be concealed when outside of the vehicle, the officer saw it and said, "What is that?" So we do need some vehicle protections. I do expect that Omaha will greatly oppose that. Omaha is constantly trying to impose restrictions on all Nebraska citizens in an effort to curb gang violence, because think about their average day. If they're in that neighborhood or those neighborhoods, they're constantly seeing the same people that they know are gangbangers. They know they're criminals. They're constantly encountering the same people over and over. And I understand their frustration. They will arrest them for what they can, and they get off. Or they get a slap in the hand, and a week later they're getting pulled over by the same cops. And so they're trying to use things like firearms possession. If they have a firearm that isn't locked in a case, if they have any type of firearm in the vehicle, they want to be able to cite them for something. But why should they be focused on that as opposed to actual criminal behaviors? Mm-hmm. And I mean, this is really indicative of problems that we have with our judicial system. When you have prosecutors that will not continue to push through charges for violent crime or actual crime, and they want to plea bargain down. Well, okay, just plead guilty on this possession charge. And possession, I mean, that's BS. Being in possession of something doesn't mean anything. It's the actions you
take with it or don't take with it, and
right.
No actions are being taken. The revolving door in our prosecutorial processes are really the root cause for the frustration that our law enforcement has. They're doing their jobs, they're patrolling, they're trying to keep our city safe. They make arrests when crimes are committed, and then those people are let off easily. We need to be vocal, we need to be active, we need to start making demands that the second half of our criminal justice system does its job and does its job effectively, because they need to be held accountable.
So that's been a frustration in trying to advance some of that, is who opposes it. And if you have a powerful organization that is in opposition of a bill, then most of the senators that are in that community are also going to oppose it because they want the support when it's time for re-election of those organizations. So any more questions before we go on?
Absolutely. Lot of uniform signage.
Oh,
we have
yeah.
absolute consistency in this state for firearms not allowed.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to make sure that it's never consistent on any building.
That
and we can easily tell when we can carry or not. Right?
Definitely
right.
a belly button issue for me. When we testified for a form of consistent signage, the first time that I was involved, it was for actually just some form of consistent signage, some size, some location, so that folks who are law abiding, which are 99.9% of law or gun owners in Nebraska are, so we would just know where a private entity did not want us to enter if we had our carry firearm with us. That didn't pass. The biggest argument was that private organizations like restaurants and stores, we shouldn't force them to place something that might be unaesthetically pleasing. And they have rights for the look and feel of their frontage. The second arguments had to do with, my arguments were, well, why don't we just create a nice pretty symbol that we would all recognize as don't enter with a firearm, and you can put it in the bottom right hand corner of your entrance and just make that consistent. Well, that didn't work either. The last one that we testified for was at least to change the to an infraction. So here in Nebraska, if you enter into a place that is posted, it's a firearms violation if you're carrying concealed. Everywhere else, it's trespassing if you don't leave after being asked to leave if they happen to notice you're carrying a firearm. Because it's, generally speaking, an accident that you walk into a place that is posted, but you couldn't see it. And so, given that, we try to get it to be simple trespassing, but we were unsuccessful there. I'm not giving up on signage. I think it's critical. I think it's fair. I think it's appropriate. We have common signage for speed limits. We have common signage for no drugs near schools. We want to prevent crime. We want to prevent people from committing crime. We want to forewarn them about the fact that they could make an infraction. So common signage is just common sense, and I'm going to keep fighting for that.
Absolutely. And one of the things you can do to help us out is share your experiences with us. If you're a concealed handgun permit holder in the state of Nebraska and you have ever found yourself in violation inadvertently, then share your story with us. Tell us where you were, how it happened. I've been in violation multiple times. One time I was at a meeting in a hotel downtown. I went through the front door of the hotel. There was no signage. I always check. I always stop and look to see if there's a sign. There was no signage. At the very end of the day, I was walking out with a group of individuals out of a different door, the doorway that went to the attached parking garage. Yeah. And there were sliding doors. And I noticed two things. One, when the doors opened, you couldn't see any signage because there was a beam that blocked where the sign was on the glass door. The other thing that I noticed is suddenly the doors closed and I was like, oh, there's no gun signs on here. Mm-hmm. If you are a professional, if you are a doctor, a nurse, or any of the, 400 and some different vocations that requires state certification, let us know your experiences. Let us know what your profession is and how it could possibly negatively affect you by having a firearms violation on your record. This is a career ruining thing to have a firearms violation versus an infraction like all of the states that are contingent to Nebraska.
Right.
And I think that there's a few senators that might entertain that a lot more seriously if they understood the real impact to professionals, nurses, doctors, lawyers, you name it. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know that a lawyer would ever have that on their record, though, right? No. I mean, they kind of protect themselves.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. But any other professional.
Except for Dick. Dick's a good guy.
Dick's one of the good lawyers.
He's one of the good lawyers.
And there's a few. I mean, Senator Hilgers, he's a good guy.
Absolutely great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One you keep forgetting to switch me on so they can hear me. One last question, and that would be how about if I switch to the correct one here?
Might help.
Okay, now I'm live, I think. Last question, how do you think the District 5 election is going to play out? Any thoughts on that?
Remind me where District 5 is again.
That's a good question.
I know people, but I don't necessarily remember numbers. I think it's in Omaha. It's a low number, so I think it's in Omaha.
I think so too. I'm not sure. That was just a question that came in, and I'm not positive. So I guess what we'll have to reply is if you could tell us where that is, maybe we can give you an idea. Yeah. How's that?
Regardless of whose race that is, I'm not sure at this point I'm willing to weigh in on my thoughts on who might win any given race, other than Moorfeld, Pansing, Brooks, and Hansen, which are running unopposed. I will say that if you really care about the outcome of some of these elections, I encourage you to get involved in helping out those that are friendly to our cause. Mm-hmm. They need every little bit of help they can possibly get, and that includes joining them in parades and things like that. Yeah.
As an active citizen, I'm highly concerned with District 2. That's my district, and so I think activism, education, support. I spent a good hour and a half walking the Ralston Parade in support of my candidate. I had a great time. I lost some weight and definitely got our message across. So there are small things that you can do and there are big things you can do, but all of them add up and make a huge difference. So I really hope you can do that.
So let's talk about what things we can do to try to improve gun rights here in Nebraska. One of the things that we can do is understand that we're facing opposition that is very vocal and they are using misinformation. We need to get more active in responding to them with factual data, factual information. Anytime they are incorrect or twisting things, we need to correct them. Now, this may be on social media, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you should engage in a debate on social media and expect that you're going to change the mind of the person that you're talking to. You're not. However, there are thousands of people who may be watching these comments, and if you can present yourself professionally and not resort to name calling, which the opposition loves to do, and you can correct them and you can point to factual sources like, maybe things with the CDC or the FBI or, government data that is collected that shows that concealed carry permit holders, as an example, are some of the most law-abiding folks and are
In the entire nation.
the least likely to commit a crime of any kind. The next least likely, which is actually more than CHP holders, would be police officers. Way above that would be elected officials, government.
Right. I know.
Why are government officials more likely to be found and convicted of committing a crime than concealed carry permit holders?
Maybe because they're so high they're above the law?
You might be onto something.
Might be.
Write articles to the paper. I know that we have a couple of newspapers in Nebraska, in the eastern half of the state, that are so anti-gun, they generally don't cover us. There's a particular paper that I won't even do an interview with because the few times that we've attempted to even do anything, they have completely ignored us, and they give great coverage to the anti-side. But if they get enough letters to the editor, even they are likely to publish a positive piece on occasion.
Sure.
All of these newspapers, I don't care if it's a weekly paper or a daily paper, we need to start getting aggressive on pushing firearms rights and give your stories. If you can share a personal story, how this affected you, how it affected a coworker, a family member, make it personal. And it's more likely to get published, and it's more likely to get people who are in the middle. You're not going to change the gun haters, and you've already got the gun lovers, but you have this maybe 70%, 60%, 50% of the people who may lean one way or the other, but they're willing to be swayed, against or for, if they can see a compelling argument and see examples of how people are personally affected by that. The other thing I would recommend is anytime somebody is making anti-gun claims, and you know that these are false claims, make them show their work. They're making a claim? Fine. Prove it. Prove through the data that your claim is actually valid. Show me how you came to that conclusion. I accept that we can all look at the same data and possibly come to different conclusions. I'm fine with that. But we know that a lot of things are twisted and they extract certain pieces of information and exclude the rest just to cherry pick to make some false argument. And even most of the time, a lot of these claims, they pull it out of their ass. There's no data to begin with.
No,
it's just, like there's another responsible gun owner. Okay, well, have you ever heard of filicide? Have you ever seen what was her name? That gal who drove her minivan with her 3 kids into the lake, a dozen or so years ago.
That was a responsible
Smith,
soccer mom.
Was it? Yeah. Oh, there's another responsible parent.
Yeah.
That's exactly the type of argument. And nobody in their right mind believes that type of thing.
And for everyone, please know the difference between correlation and causation. Super important. Google it. You'll find out what it means. So important.
And finally, we've got to get good people elected. This last group of folks 2 years ago, we had some really good people in there.
We did.
And some of them have been great champions for us. Senator Hilgers is just one example. Senator Tom Brewer.
Senator Epke was absolutely fantastic.
There are some good people that have been running in some of these races. They need our support. We've got to get them elected. Otherwise, we're going to continue to have those that oppose our rights obstruct anything of value.
Right. So another opportunity that you will have to get more involved and to learn how to be more involved is our annual members meeting.
It's coming up.
August 25th.
Yeah. We got about 4 or 5 weeks. Yeah,
we're really excited. We'll be at DE Guns outside the city limits of Lincoln. That's very important to stress. We like the fact that DE Guns moved to a fantastic new location, amazing shopping for you ladies and men, don't want to exclude you, and fantastic range opportunities outside. So we're going
Neat
to have
facilities, a very, very large acreage that they bought.
Yeah.
Have a couple of ranges there now. I mean, really neat facilities.
So we have an incredible agenda scheduled. If you are members of NFOA, you saw that on our forum. We have posted some details on our Facebook page. We'll continue to alert you, but we're going to have sessions on how to be involved, how to have an effective two-way supporting argument in a way that makes an outcome achievable. We're going to talk about how to be safe and how to address safety on the range with range injuries. We have some incredible instruction available for that and a myriad of other topics. The members meeting, the business meeting is in the afternoon during lunch, and that's free to every NFOA member. But those who want to attend the day, it's $25 donation, which includes an incredible lunch that one of our board members is arranging. Trey, thank you for doing all that work. He is the foodie, so it will be tasty, trust me. And then whole day full of training. So we hope to see you there. Registration is available on our Facebook page, on our Eventbrite page, and register today. So hope to see you there.
It's well worth the $25. I mean, people think, oh, well, it might be $15 worth of food. Why are we charging so much? But I mean, it's a whole day, and we have so many people that volunteer their time to give presentations. And basically what we're doing is the little bit of extra is covering paying their lunch.
Sure.
I mean, we're not expecting people that are giving up their day to present to pay for their own lunch.
Well, and there are also other expenses, so supplies and things like that to run the meeting. We are a super nonprofit, totally volunteer-based organization, and we use that to offset the cost so we don't have a loss for the meeting. Also, we're going to be discussing at the meeting your opportunity to get even more involved. Do you want to have a voice in Nebraska with regards to firearms legislation and education? Do you want to get active and have an opportunity to be on things like town halls on Facebook and get interviewed by papers who will never print your story? We have an opportunity for you. This year, we are actually going to be having our board elections. So we have a core board who is the voting board, president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, and the like. And we also have some other opportunities for director positions for you to use your talents, skills, and time to help support firearms freedom in Nebraska. And you can learn more about that opportunity also during our members meeting where we begin to take nominations. So if you have a couple hours a month or more, that might be a great opportunity for you to get involved and have a voice in what we do and how we do it. We hope that you submit your name, and we look forward to looking at those nominations and having a great election for the next 2 years.
The other thing that we have recently done is update our website. We have, we've had a couple of websites over the years, and what we had was functional, but technology advances, and we really wanted to freshen it up and give it a fresh look, something that was a little more mobile friendly. So many people will visit websites with their mobile devices now. So we wanted to update the template to something that was a lot more mobile friendly, something that was maybe a little cleaner in design. And we still have some things that we want to do. We have a lot of plans with what we want to do with the website. But if you haven't been out to nebraskafirearms.org recently, go check it out and let us know what you think. Post something on Facebook, send us a message, or join the forum. The forum doesn't look dramatically different than what it had been, but we did make a number of updates, and we have some integration in with the website now. We still have some ongoing updates. We're going to continue to try to incorporate additional features and functions, but check it out if you haven't seen those changes. Andy, I know we're getting low on time here. Do we have any more questions?
Do not see anything on the thread right now. I don't see any questions on that. Is there anything you guys feel like we haven't covered or we maybe have glossed over that you'd like to touch base on?
I don't know. Other than, please make whatever effort you can to attend the members meeting. We're going to try to make it interaction. We want to be able to have a lot more detailed conversations with people about potential legislation. We want to get our members involved. We want your help in crafting our message, in crafting our priorities. And, even if you only have, 5 hours that you can dedicate, or 2 hours a month that you can dedicate, or it changes depending on whether it's softball season or not, we have opportunities for everyone to get involved and assist. This is your organization. I mean, it's really important to understand state level organizations like the NFOA are not like your national level organizations like the NRA, Second Amendment Foundation, GOA, and there's others out there. Those organizations, they want your money, and they pay people that are full-time to focus on their goals and objectives. The Nebraska Firearm Owners Association is all about a grassroots effort. None of us are paid for what we do, and everyone needs to get involved, no matter how little that may be. So please seek us out and let us know the types of things that you're interested in, what types of skills you either want to exercise or would like to develop. And I think we have a lot of opportunities out there that we just haven't really filled.
We're just looking for the right man or woman to take up that charge. Some of the exciting things we're having, we just got invited to the Shooting Classic at Cabela's. So if you're interested in learning more about the Nebraska Firearm Owners Association, come out and see us today and tomorrow. We'll be there till 5 each day. We have some educational seminars we're presenting. We're sitting next to the Well-Armed Woman, which is another nonprofit organization that is dedicated to education throughout the state of Nebraska. Additionally, we have NFOA Night at the Range. That's going to be at one of our sponsoring ranges, Thunder Alley in Lincoln. That's July 25th. You'll have an opportunity to meet both Nebraska Firearm Owners Association members and members of the Well-Armed Woman. A great opportunity at an awesome range. Thank you, Thunder Alley, for being our sponsor for that this time around. Additionally, we have some other educational opportunities you may learn about. We have the NRA Woman on Target. That's coming up very soon. Registration is open. I'd like to put in a plug for that. We also have a Lady Seed, which is a Project Appleseed day, which is available for women who are interested in learning rifle marksmanship and safety and learning about your American history. So great opportunities. Another reason to be involved in NFOA is that we promote and advance education through the state to you, so you can take advantage of them. And I hope to see you all later.
I love Project Appleseed, and I'm so excited to see that they have a ladies only
it'll be really exciting
offering.
I was going to say, isn't there also a regular Appleseed coming up as well?
Yes, there's also regular Appleseed next month. That's one of the reasons why it's nice to be a member of NFOA and be on our online forum, because we post all these educational opportunities well in advance of them may be known publicly, so you can get in, because sometimes those tickets go quick.
On the topic of education, we're also working on implementing some facilitation for the trainers that are in the organization. So if they have a more private area to have training discussions, and we'll be able to bring information to them for training purposes that the regular members may not see. We're also going to be bringing that out into the forums as well.
Oh, awesome.
It's on the slate to get done. I don't have a date on that yet.
Okay.
But
So stand by.
Yeah, we'll be announcing that. We're also working, please forgive us, some of you may know that I'm the new webmaster or forums master, etc. Big thanks to Dan for all the work he has done in the past. He decided to step aside just for various reasons. And so please forgive me if it's looking a little rough. We're trying to get our hands on everything he's done over the years.
Those are some big shoes to fill.
Yeah, we're gonna miss Dan. We're gonna miss Dan so much. But I mean, he's a founding member. He had been serving the NFOA for at least 10 years. And it's easy to get really tired, and especially as much work as he put in.
Absolutely.
So we really appreciate everything that Dan has done, and we're really gonna miss him.
Yeah, the forum will improve. We had to overcome some issues because of our host, but it will be improving. Forgive us while we get through the dust and
under
debris
construction.
from rebuilding. But that is it. We've reached our time. We're an hour. It's hard to believe it's been that fast already. You guys were awesome, and so was our attendees. And our video has decided it's done too. So
I didn't get a chance to say goodbye.
you still can. We're audio.
Oh, we're still audio. Okay. Well, so I do want to thank everyone for tuning in, and big thanks to 88 Tactical in Omaha, Nebraska for the opportunity to utilize their boardroom for this broadcast. They have been, great hosts for us in the past. This is a nice facility for us to utilize, and we greatly appreciate their support. So thanks again, and hope to see you at the members meeting.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye, guys.